On this episode of livingwithaclassic, I'll show you how to change spark plugs and coils on a Jaguar S-Type. Welcome back to livingwithaclassic, and if you're new to my channel, I hope that you stick around and consider subscribing. I put new videos every week on some Jaguar and classic car related content. So you can navigate to my channel down below, and while you're down there, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification and you won't miss any updates. In this video, I'll show you how to change spark plugs and coil packs on my 1999 Jaguar S-Type. It's a 3-liter V6. Recently, when I drove the car a few days ago, I started having a small misfire. So when I came home, I pulled out the code reader and it showed misfire on cylinder 2. So I ordered all the coil packs and set of new spark plugs. Spark plugs haven't been in there for that long, but while I'm doing the job, I might as well change them as well because they don't really cost much at all. So I'm going to show you what tools you need for this job, and then we'll head on over to the car and I'll show you how to change those coil packs and the spark plugs, and basically how to take the whole intake off, because this is what you'll have to do to get to one of the banks. Here are the tools you'll need to complete the job. First of all, a 13mm spanner to disconnect the battery. It's good practice to have the battery disconnected when you work on the engine, also when you remove anything electrical such as the coils. An 8 and a 10mm spanner, 8 and 10mm sockets, an extender and a ratchet for that, a 16mm spark plug socket with an extender and a ratchet. I also like to have one of these pliers for getting hoses off, and it's just a really good plier for pulling off vacuum lines and coolant lines. And then just a pair of adjustable pliers to get any clips off and any hose clamps. And that's pretty much all you need. Here's the 3-liter V6 in my 1999 Jaguar S-Type. On this side of the engine, it's very easy to get to the coils and the plugs. Just remove this cover, and they're right there. On this bank, however, the whole inlet manifold is in the way, so that needs to be removed. It's held in place with some bolts up here. There are a couple support brackets on the side, a few hoses that need to come off, and then you can get access to the other side. So I'm going to start with the difficult side, this side, and then we'll change the plugs on this side afterwards. So I'll start by removing all of this and start to remove the inlet manifold. I'm going to start by removing this hose that goes from the airbox to the inlet manifold. It's held in place up here and here with 2 clamps. And then there's a connector here and a few other hoses. So I'm going to start undoing the clamps here. Then pull off the connector. Now that's out of the way. I will now undo the 6 bolts up here that holds the inlet manifold on up here. And there's a few on the side as well. Now I've removed all those bolts. It was 8 instead of 6, I counted wrong before. There's also 2 on the side, 1 over here for a bracket, 1 down under here. There's also a bracket back there that I took off. Then I disconnected various electrical connectors, 1 over here, 1 down there, 1 up here, 1 here, behind here. Various vacuum lines, this one goes up here, small vacuum line over there that can show when this is off. Another vacuum line down there, and I disconnected the coolant line over here and the coolant line down there. So everything should be loose now, and I'm going to try and lift this off. Oh yeah, and I also removed the breather, the PCV breather for the valve covers, just so didn't break it. So that goes under here. That's been removed as well. So now this should be ready to lift off. There, now the intake is off. So now I can get to the coils on this side and get those spark plugs out as well. I'm going to get some clean rags and lay over the top of the engine so nothing drops down in there. I'm just going to get an 8mm socket here. Take each of these out one by one, remove the plug, put a new plug and a new coil. And then this side should be done. I'll put the intake on again, and then I'll do the easy side when everything is back together. I've done 2 plugs and 2 coils so far. So if I show you how to do it here on the last one. So it's just an 8mm bolt that holds the coil in place. So just gonna undo that. And before I get out all the way, I'll disconnect the electrical plug that goes to the coil. Now the old coil pulls out. It's a good idea to inspect it, make sure that there's no oil or anything on it. Tiny bit of condensation, but nothing weird at all. It's winter here and it's really quite damp outside, but no oil or anything, so that's really good. You can also look down into the spark plug well, make sure it's not full of oil down there and just that looks nice and clean. If there's any dirt or debris, blow that out before you try to take the spark plug out so you don't get any dirt down into the cylinder. And now you just undo the old spark plug. Here it comes. The new plugs I'm using, they come pre-gapped from NGK, so you're not supposed to touch the gap on these at all. Gently thread it in. Be really careful not to cross thread anything because it's the last thing you want to do. And then hand tighten it down as far as it will go. And just tighten up the last bit with a ratchet. And please don't over tighten these. These two cylinders were really tight. I felt like I was going to snap the plug when I got them out. So for the next person doing this job, next mechanic, next owner, please don't over tighten these. There's no need to. Grab my new coil. Line it up so that the connector's in the right place. And the bolt hole. Firmly push it down. And now you can just put that 8mm bolt back in place. Snug it down. And connect up the electrical connector again. With everything done on this side, I'm getting ready to put the intake manifold back in place. Just going to clean off that valve cover a little bit, get that dirt off. Here is the intake manifold, and if I could show you what I had to disconnect. Electrical connector over here, one over here, small vacuum line over there, another electrical connector here, and one over there. That coolant line, another coolant line there, two vacuum lines over here. Then you had the bolts on top. There's 8 of them. On this engine, it was a long bolt, short bolt, short bolt, long bolt, short bolt, short bolt. Then there were 2 more bolts as well. You had one over here, one up there, and then there was a little bracket over here on the back as well. So that was it. So now I'm going to put this back on the car. I replaced the plugs and coils on the other side as well. And now everything is back in place. You're ready to start it up, check for any vacuum or coolant leaks, and go for a test drive. And that's it. That's how you change the spark plugs and the coil packs on the V6 and the Jaguar S-Type. I took the car for a nice 20 to 30 minute test drive. It ran perfectly, smoothly, no misfires at all. I even plugged in the code reader just to double check and there were no codes at all. So the car is running perfectly now. It's a bit of a hassle having to remove that intake, but because these spark plugs stay in there for such a long time, and honestly those coil packs look to be the original ones and they've lasted about 20-21 years. So to having to take off the intake to do this job is not really that bad since it's not something you do very often. So let me know in the comments down below. Is this something that you've done on your car? Is this something that you're going to tackle on your car now in the future? You can definitely do this at home. I think it's not that difficult. Just make sure you have some time. And it's nice if you're able to be inside like I was. So until next time, I'm Adam, and this was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.